In the fall of 2016, I had the opportunity to assist Tom Byers make this beautiful birch bark canoe. Now it was time to make some slings to put it on display, and so I volunteered. I'm by no means a master craftsman. In fact, I'm just a beginning woodworker, but I thought I'd give it a shot. I don't own any milling equipment, and I'm sure many of you don't either, so I designed these slings with dimensional lumber that you can pick up at a box store. I mark the higher board with a pencil, and then just use a hand plane to bring it down to match. Unfortunately, all the stock you buy at the box store isn't exactly square and perfect, so do double check everything. I made this little measuring guide to transfer my measurements onto all 8 pieces that will be the feet. Then I measured down half the width of the leg boards on each of the sides of the feet to accommodate for the leg to be inserted inside. When I built my workbench, I left this little lip on it, which is coming in extremely handy for clamping pieces too. I gave the boards another score with the knife and then sawed down to the line. This is so that when I router out that excess later, I get a nice clean edge. Of course, if you have a table saw, you could just cut these out with a dado set. One of the things I learned from Tom is just working with what you've got, and all I had was this small router bit, so I just had to do multiple passes to get the depth I needed, but it worked. Of course, not all the wood is consistent, so I had to match the grain pattern and the color from the legs to the feet, just to give it a little bit more of a consistent look. Then I used my template again to transfer the pilot holes that I needed to drill when I later screw these feet together. Again, working with what you have, I used a bigger drill bit as a countersink bit. You can use the drill bit in reverse to create a nice countersink, as opposed to going forward, in which case you get all this tear out. Reverse first, straight to drill. You get much more tear out if you just drill first. You can score the wood by going reverse first. Tip of the day. Now that I have my pilot holes drilled and my countersink holes embedded, I screw the feet together on the outside, leaving the inside open for when I insert the leg. Now we can start measuring the mortises for the crossbars. I did the bottom one at 11 inches to center from the bottom, and the second one 22 inches from the bottom. No need to set up any fancy router jigs, just a cutoff that was close, and I added a little masking tape to give me the width I needed to get the proper distance from the fence of the router to the wall which I was going to brace it against. Because I got this constant distance, I know that all 4 sides are going to be equal. I didn't bother squaring these mortises up. I thought it'd be easier just to round the tenons, and it seemed to work just fine. Because I have this consistent depth off the fence, I know that my cuts are going to be always centered in the board and accurate. So when I flip it over, I don't even need to draw the line. I know that my distance off the wall is going to be exactly the same, and I can trust that my cuts will be accurate. Now we're going to cut the crossbars. So I cut these to 35 inches. And we need 4 crossbars for this project. Always good to have an old chop chisel for peeling stickers. Here I just came in 1/4 inch off each edge of the crossbar for my tenons. Cut down the line with a dovetail saw. And just chiseled away the excess on both sides. You want to have a nice sharp chisel for this. Because the canoe was completely handmade, I wanted to bring an element of that handmade feel into the stand, so I didn't mind that some of my chisel strokes were going to be seen and some of the handwork was going to be seen. The last thing I wanted is for this to look like it was made by a machine after so much love and care was put into the canoe that was going to be resting on it. It was important to me that it had a handmade feel. The beautiful thing about handmade work is the imperfections, and that's what makes it, for me, enjoyable to look at, is to kind of walk around and you can see where the work had been done. Once I had all my pieces cut, I just gave everything a quick chamfer just to take the hard edge off. Now we're going to create the mortises that'll fit the wedges in the crossbars. Again, no fancy jig, I just clamped a scrap board to give me the exact distance I needed for the router, and just basically freehanded it from there. Rather than squaring off the edges, I just left the round corners that the router left behind and made my wedges to match. I'm not sure if they're technically called wedges when they're flat, but they serve the same purpose. And I cut the blocks. These are going to hold in the leather straps. Once all my pieces were cut, I gave everything a quick sand, and it is amazing how nice of a curve and beveled edges you can get with a random orbit sander. This is my first time working with leather, but everything went smooth. I used a rope to measure the curve for the arc of the canoe, and then just pulled that straight to get my length the leather needed. And it seemed like the trick with cutting leather was just multiple passes with a sharp knife. I didn't show every single pass, but I would just go over it 3 or 4 times, and then eventually I'd be able to stick my blade through and just pull it right through. Once I had my leather straps cut, I aligned the blocks to the legs, clamped them into position, and then drilled holes all the way through that were going to fit my brass bolts. As you can see, I'm using my larger bit trick here again in reverse to make the countersinks for the bolt heads. However, it wasn't quite deep enough, so I just finished the job off with the knife. It's kind of fun working with what you got. You have these points where you are standing there looking around the shop trying to think, what can I use to cut this, or what can I use to make this hole bigger, and eventually you find something. Now I've got all my pieces cut, so I've got 4 legs, 8 feet, 4 crossbars, 8 wedges, 4 blocks, and 2 belts. You may notice that I was 4 wedges short there, but I realized that a little later. Now it was time to screw the feet into the legs, so I took my corresponding legs with feet, put them together, and got started on the final assembly. So now that everything's been fit and measured and marked, it goes together quite smoothly. I just had to sand the wedges to get them to the exact size I needed to put them through. And once I had everything test fit, I gave the wedges a wax and put them in their final position. Time for the final assembly. For bolts, I used brass 2-inch 1/4 flathead screws, and for the nuts, I used a 1/4 acorn nut. Give the leather just a quick sand, just to take off any hard edges or cut marks. So there we go. It was time to put the canoe on its new bed. And I quite like it how it just rocks a little bit. That makes it feel like it's on the water. So I just want to remind everybody that I'm not here to train and educate. I'm here to inspire people to make them realize that they can make these things for themselves and that you should give it a try. The hardest thing about this project is just getting started. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and remember, be nice to people and be nice to our earth. If you'd like to see the making of this canoe, you can check that video out here, or some of my other projects here and here. If you like what I'm up to, please share these through social media with your friends and family, and subscribe to my channel. Lots of exciting stuff coming.